representatives of government organizations and business associations or a combination. So now I hand over to today's moderator, Adrian Deriz.
So welcome everyone, welcome to all the participants, welcome to all the panel experts. Today I'm looking very much forward to this fruitful conversation we will have today about the food and beverage market in China. All questions are welcome, of course, in the meeting chat. If they are relevant to the topic at hand, we will try to integrate them into the conversation, and otherwise we will find at the end of the webinar also time for interaction between the participants and the panel experts. Now, let me briefly introduce the experts today that are giving their time and expertise into this topic. First of all, Kerstin Kehler. Kerstin is living for now over 20 years and working in China, so she's a real China expert, helping to onboard German small and medium-sized companies into her incubator in China and growing their business. Then second, Fabian Berndt, who is roasting coffee in Hannover and China and also selling through his own cafes in China, high quality specialty coffee. Thirdly, Maik Juengst. Maik Juengst is promoting European and Western food styles to the Chinese hospitality sector, restaurants, high-end hotels, where he also has a lot of work experience around the globe. So we are looking very much forward to input from all these experts in the China market. And now, last but certainly not least, Sven Kaiser, the event sponsor with CUP&CINO today, and solution offerer for high-end innovative coffee solutions. And Sven will also go forward first today and introduce the CUP&CINO business. CUP&CINO has been expanding in Europe now, is already one of the market leaders in Germany for quite a while in innovative coffee solutions. So we are interested to hear about Sven's take on the Chinese market. Sven?
Thank you very much, Adrian. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Yes. Thank you very much for the introduction, Adrian. Thanks for the platform, Neville, and hello to the audience. Hello to China, to Germany, and other parts of Europe. Maybe a couple of quick words about myself. I'm a management consultant by training. I've helped a couple of companies to grow both in Germany and internationally, and I've joined CUP&CINO 2 years ago to take over the internationalization of the company. Has been successful in Germany, and I will tell you a bit more about that in the presentation that we've prepared. Maybe a bit about the angle of this presentation, or the status that we're in. We've focused our efforts on the European market for now, and we've expanded to a number of countries in Europe, and we're at the same time looking beyond Europe to China and other markets as well. But the status we're in, we're looking at China from our perspective and from what we have to offer. We've been successful in the German European market, and China is one of the next steps. So we are very curious to hear from the group and from the audience the thoughts that you have about our ideas about the Chinese market. And we're kind of like letting you look into the engine room of our international expansion, and very excited to hear what the experts and the audience has to say about that. So, as for the speech, for the keynote presentation, I will share my screen now. I hope this works fine. If not, you can't see the slides, I'd ask for Neville or Adrian to let me know. Otherwise, I will go ahead and introduce CUP&CINO and the journey we're about to start. So first of all, a little bit of background on the company. CUP&CINO has been founded over 25 years ago by Frank Apping, who's in the audience today as well. He's the owner and CEO of the company. And CUP&CINO has taken quite an interesting journey, I find, from offering a solution or being a solution provider, opening coffee houses in Germany, so gaining experience of what it is to be a gastronomy operator themselves. This expertise has gone into becoming a full solution provider for coffee solutions, and with a vision to basically get the coffee shop experience and minimize it to a 2 square meter footprint. So what the company is offering or has been offering in the past 20 years is a full service solution. That means coffee machines plus coffee beans plus technical service for several thousand customers in Germany. Those are restaurants, cafes, hotels, the convenience sector, petrol stations, and we're the market leader in that segment of petrol stations. And I find it quite interesting, the journey the company has taken, because you could call it a number of pivots that have been made during that course. So basically starting out from being a gastronomy operator themselves and taking that knowledge to offering other providers a full service solution. And then the second or even third pivot came in 2016 when we began the development of our own coffee machines. So up until this time, we've been working with fully automatic bean to cup machines. For everyone who's not familiar with this solution, this is basically a solution that is very simple to operate. You push a button and out comes a coffee as you want it. But then in 2016, we've basically said that we want the barista experience that somebody has when they go to a coffee shop and order a cup of coffee, that somebody prepares such a coffee for them in a very high quality. We want to integrate that into the machine. And this is when we started the development of a world innovation, which is the Barista One, the hybrid portafilter machine, which I will show you a little bit more about in a moment. But this has basically been the pivot from a solution provider to a manufacturing company a good 5 years ago. Already 1 year later, we started with the market introduction of the Barista One Twin in Germany. We have a number of patents in the machine. It has won the Red Dot Design Award. And we've also begun the development of the IoT infrastructure, which is one of the topics today, which I will go into more detail about in a moment. And we've also launched 2 other categories of products, which is the Latte Art Factory drink solution and the Barista One solo single group machine. So basically all over the years, the foundation of the success of the company has been that we've been focusing on the success of our customers from the expertise that we've gained as an operator ourselves. So all along, we've tried to integrate a lot of the concept into the solutions that we provide to basically help our clients to maximize their coffee revenues and their margins and their own profits with that. A key to this has always been data. So even in the early years, we've been trying to collect data about coffee consumption from our customers in order to advise them, but also in order to be able to adopt a business model that is pay per cup. I think we've been one of the first, if not the first company in Europe to adopt this early. And back then we've collected the data via fax, and now it is integrated into the IoT solution that we provide. This basically this concept, not being a provider simply of coffee. There's a lot of companies that provide coffee or coffee machines, but this holistic approach of providing a full service solution and having our customer success at heart has led us to the success we've seen in Germany. So with just one example, we have a customer in Germany who has over 700 locations, and we help them to grow well above market average in terms of their own revenues, but also the share of specialties, so new drinks they are able to sell, and also in terms of the price they are able to charge for their coffee at their locations. We are winning over 1,000 customers in an average year. Of course, last year has been a bit special for everybody in the F&B sector, but this is a good number from the past couple of years, and I think this speaks for the value that we provide to our customers. So this is actually the core of what we are offering outside of Germany. As I said, we started to develop our own products a good 5 years ago, starting with the Barista 1-2 group machine, which is basically, as I said, a world innovation, as it has all of the features that a fully automatic bean-to-cup machine has, but it operates as a traditional espresso machine. So you can see here, there's a portafilter, and somebody who's operating the machine is able to provide their customer not only with a very, very good quality cup of coffee, but also with the experience that somebody would expect if they go to a coffee shop or somewhere else outside of their own home and order a cup of coffee. So we've basically taken an approach to de-skilling and putting a lot of the skills and the training that are usually required in order to manufacture this high quality product into the machine. So you can see in this slide maybe a bit better how it is set up. So everything that's been integrated in the machine is the grinding of the beans that is usually done manually. The tamping is done manually. It's simply here is done by pulling down a lever, and the rest, the milk foaming, a very tricky part for everybody who's worked in a coffee shop knows that foaming the milk and getting it to the right consistency, temperature, and all that is a very tricky business. And we've got patented technology that creates excellent milk foam from vegan alternatives from regular dairy milk, and also the possibility to manufacture other drinks with that solution as well. And basically the operator simply pushes a button, pulls a lever, empties the portafilter, and is able to produce a product that is of extremely high quality, and the customer gets the experience of a coffee shop with it. So since the actually there's one more thing I wanted to mention on this slide. The machine has been engineered and designed in a modular concept. So it basically consists of 5 modules that are independently exchangeable. And before we talk about this remote service capabilities and the IoT connection, this is something that enables a whole new service concept, because again, we've taken a lot of the skills that are usually required from an engineer to repair a machine on site. It's already integrated in the design of the machine. So this means a person with less skills than a trained engineer is able to exchange these modules. And you could think about, especially in a country that is as large as China, a concept where you have a WeChat group informing local personnel, local participants of this group that there has been a fault, and then a module can be exchanged to enable very quick service, even in a large area. So talking about the IoT and cloud capabilities. Basically, we have a lot of the well, R&D efforts have gone into developing a cloud solution that is the backbone of this system, and being able to offer a closed concept is the cloud. So every machine is always connected to the internet, which not only enables us to access the machine and do remote diagnostics, but also, since it is a real two-way connection, we can alter settings, we can put new drinks, new software updates, and everything else on the machines. And it also enables us to, what I've described a couple of moments ago, with what we used to do with fax machines in the 90s or early 2000s. This is now enabled via the cloud. So we are always aware of the consumption of the machines, which products are going well, which products could be better, and how much coffee is being consumed. And this is very important because a lot of the partners that we have are roasters in another country, and they basically provide coffee to their clients. So that could be a coffee shop, a restaurant, a hotel, and very often the market works such that the coffee shop or hotel then expects to get the machine for free or free on loan. And then the question is, how does the roaster, and I'm sure Fabian, who's on the call as well, who's a roaster himself, is how do they control that actually their coffee is being used? And this is something that is integrated into our concept, because we follow a pay-per-click logic, or pay-per-brew, as Adrian put it in another call. So basically, we are in a position to, with it enabled by the cloud infrastructure, to invoice our customers and also enable our partners to do the same thing, to charge by the consumption. So a coffee shop would then basically pay by cup. This is the business model I've just described. So basically, a roaster, our partner who has the machinery that we provide them to their customers. They receive a rent for it. They provide the roasted beans, and then they provide the remote support and the hardware exchange, and in exchange for that receive a fee per portion. So once again, talking about the IoT, the IoT-enabled service, and this is something that I'd be interested to discuss in the group a bit later, especially with our experts, because we believe this would be very relevant and helpful in the Chinese market. So how we set it up is that a coffee shop or whoever operates the machine, if there's any kind of problem, if they want something changed, they basically call a central help desk that we operate. And through the telemetry, they access the machine. They can not only do diagnostic, but also solve a lot of the issues, the majority of the issues, as a matter of fact. And if they're able to do so, basically the service case is closed. And only in the case of a hardware defect, a module pickup, a module exchange would have to be ordered. So the defect module gets picked up by a light engineer service, is then consolidated at the partner's warehouse, and centrally the modules are repaired and come back as good as new. And then the local unit basically exchanges the module in the field. This is a very lean and unique way to service the machines, which is basically enabled by the cloud and IoT. Sorry, going back to the other slide here. Yeah, so before we come to a close, we are of course challenging ourselves with a Chinese market. We have I mentioned the milk technology that we have, the standalone unit, which we did not talk about as much just now, but basically this machine in the middle is not only integrated in the Barista One, it is the same technology, but is also available as a standalone unit, and this is capable of dispensing 2 drink types at the same time. So it could be, for example, there are 2 containers inside, so it could be regular milk and a cold brew or an iced coffee. This is very popular in Germany now and in Europe, and it basically dispenses cold iced coffee in a first phase and a layer of cold milk foam on top, which is a unique drink and hugely popular. And basically now we are asking ourselves what trends in the Chinese market we could address. We are able to cover with the technology we have and help operators to improve consistency and quality of the products that they offer. And there's this milk top tea that we've been discussing, where we are currently contemplating to experiment with this type of drink. So we're expecting samples of that, but basically we are looking to cover trends in the Chinese market with machine assistance and help automating these in order to improve quality and consistency. And we'd be very interested to hear from the audience as well in terms of what kind of products and the experts from the panel, what kind of products are trending in the market and could be an opportunity to support with the technology that we offer. So this was a quick introduction about what we do, what we have planned to do, and now I'm basically looking forward to a discussion with the experts and the audience about the trends in the Chinese market and the opportunities and possibilities that we see in the coffee market, but also in the broader F&B market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this, yes, very interesting introduction, Sven. I think a lot of members in the audience from the hospitality and also the coffee and food and beverage sectors will already have a lot of questions towards your innovative solution in terms of the modularity of the solution and also the IoT connection. I think after this interesting introduction, we can now dive into the Chinese market together with our experts. I would like to start to forward a question towards Fabian, especially about the potential business opportunities and customer groups he sees for CUP&CINO. We saw already a little bit about your business model, how you work together in international markets with roasteries. Fabian himself being a roaster, how do you see who are your typical customers for your coffee, and what do you think are good potential partners for CUP&CINO in China, Fabian?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I think the Chinese coffee market is still quite new and is continuously developing in new directions. Especially for CUP&CINO, I see there is a demand for this kind of solution-based coffee company. We are usually importing green beans from Germany to China and roast basically coffee beans for the market, and then have B2C sales and B2B sales. But we don't have our own proprietary machines who actually enable us to target the really big customers, where a machine like this would basically enable the customer to have a very standardized product in all their stores. So there I see the quite a niche market positioning for CUP&CINO.
Yes, very interesting. And the type of bars or like cafes, can you tell us a little bit about the coffee culture in China, about the type of bars and restaurants that are coming up where coffee is consumed at the moment? What do Chinese people maybe attach to drinking a cup of coffee, or why do they drink a cup of coffee in your point of view at the moment in the market?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, as we all know, China is so huge, so you cannot say China in general, right? So I would say the areas where Chinese people drink coffee are the bigger cities, right? Like Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, the first tier cities basically. And there also this market is changing a lot. I mean, we are here 4.5 years now, and when we came, the coffee market was quite different than it is now. You can see back then only, let's say, coffee lovers or people who came from back from overseas or had some connection to Western culture, I would say, who had the habit of drinking coffee. And now you can really see how, let's say, new coffee people rising in this market. And of course, this also shows in the way coffee shops pop up everywhere. And
yes,
China is very Chinese people like to take opportunities. So there are so many coffee shops everywhere, and some of them are gone quickly again, but then a new one opens up. So it's a very diverse market already, I would say.
Very interesting. So it sounds like there's a lot of a lot of new demand also from the Chinese consumers in the Chinese market. And which type of, and you mentioned there's a lot of different type of coffees coming up, and a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in the Chinese coffee market. Which kind of coffee providers or cafes, coffee shops do you see have a lot of success at the moment? In the terms of business model or terms of positioning?
Yeah, I think the most coffee is consumed. I don't have the exact numbers, but definitely the hotel industry is still huge because they have free coffee for breakfast. So even though maybe many of their customers would normally not drink coffee, but because it's included in the breakfast, so there's a high coffee consumption in hotels. And then it's not the same as we have in Europe or in Germany in particular, that you have all the bakeries, or basically every restaurant probably has a decent coffee consumption. This, I would say, you don't have here. Shanghai is a little bit special, and Beijing also. There you have it a little bit more, that also bakeries have a good coffee consumption sometimes. But I can say here from South China, from Guangzhou or Shenzhen, if you have a bakery, there's very little coffee sold. It's more like the southern China, Hong Kong tea, milk tea type of beverage, what is consumed with the bakery goods. So basically hotels, and then specialty coffee businesses, like coffee shops who focus on producing coffee.
Thank you, Fabian. So very interesting. So it seems like the Chinese coffee consumer still really goes to the places where he knows that are for coffee, and in his mind these are for coffee, and not maybe in a bakery where coffee is a side product. But we also heard from you that hotels are becoming a place where Chinese increasingly drink tea. And of course, luckily today with Maik, we got a true expert in the hotel and the hospitality sector in China. Maik has been consulting a variety of hospitality and hotels in China with Western food and beverage solutions. And Maik, can you also share us a little bit of your experience, how hotels are reacting or already maybe demanding coffee solutions from you?
I think most of the hotel, you have this, first, hello everyone. I think the demand for solution is especially for that hotel interesting who don't have any traditional coffee culture. So if you go to a 5-star hotel, maybe an international brand like Marriott Group or Shangri-La, this culture exists because the people who working there are mostly living up that culture of having coffee and having westernized products in general. So you're gonna have a lot of hotel, also 5-star sectors. What is really has no attachment with any kind of Western culture. It's basically local brands, right? And over there, even the highest position of a CEO or owner himself wouldn't even drink a coffee. But as the population is very young and getting into the direction of the consumption of coffee and Western food in general, so I see a huge opportunity for this kind of coffee solutions, because over there is simply, I don't know, I'll just say a number, it might be thousands of hotels where the demand of coffee is there right now, but the hotel operator don't know how to handle it. So simply speaking, you just have to walk into the door and let them know that coffee isn't so abstract and complicated as you maybe think. Because the traditional coffee shop on the street, you see the people pouring with the hot water, and the operator already gets scared of just seeing that, because he thinks he might have to hire just someone pouring water over ground beans. So I think there's a huge market. I think right now the market Fabian has is possibly the one who is knowing a little bit about coffee. So I think the other 99%, I think it's a good target group to have.
So there is also in the hospitality or in the hotel sector, it seems to be a lot of growth opportunity towards coffee. You also mentioned the different types of hotel owner persona, like the large international chains, and then the maybe more Chinese led and Chinese managed, maybe not so large chains. How do you see in terms of your customer clientele? Do you serve both of these groups, and how do you see the developments in the markets? What is new in the hotel sector, or who are the hotels that you are serving? Because it's, I think, also interesting for the audience to hear a little bit about your business.
Can you just, I think you put two questions together.
Yes. So do you serve both, like the large international chains and the maybe smaller Chinese managed hotel chains? And where do you see a change in the market, or what are the market developments at the moment?
So back to what I mentioned before, I think we're focusing on everyone who has no clue about Western food, and in that regard also no clue about coffee and how to serve coffee. So we're trying to target this kind of chains. And in fact, these are actually much bigger chains. You have your hotel chains who maybe having 1,000 hotels and you never even heard about them because they're not into your, how to say, you're not surrounded with that market, right?
Yes.
So you're surrounded with a traditional Western market and traditional brands, but there's so many hotels you would not even recognize, but they exist to thousands. And all of them have lobbies. All of them are serving already tea of some kind. All of them serving a breakfast, what goes more into the congee and some dumpling direction. What's completely fine, but they all want to kind of improve. Everyone wants continuously upgrading because the competition is so high. So you have every day somebody is coming up building another hotel brand, and everybody can not compete anymore with the rooms because they're already getting pretty. They are at their max of being pretty, and they're optimized pretty much as well. So what is the next step? You have to go possibly into the food and beverage experience, but then that becomes much more complicated because you can buy a hardware room and make it look pretty for people to stay in your hotel. But then if it comes to make the same for food, you need a solution. So you need a product solution and you need an equipment solution that maybe the people who served breakfast before are the same now who serve lunch, dinner, and make a coffee, because nobody is actually willing to hire now an F&B brigade where you're having now an army of people serving great coffee and food. So there is definitely, these people have no choice than solutions. And also their space is very limited. So they're not going to give up a room just to make better food, in fact. It's going to be the opposite. They rather want to have another room they can sell and try to keep everything as tight as possible.
Thank you. So that sounds also that like the hotel sector has a lot of need for innovative solutions. And also we heard from Fabian already a lot of new developments and new growth in the coffee sector. So Kerstin, you've been dealing with German companies, I think, for nearly all your professional life in China. When a German company has such a market opportunity or a market potential in China, and what do you usually advise German companies to take as a first steps when looking to explore and looking to access these market opportunities in China, Kerstin?
Thank you, Adrian. I generally advise more or less all companies the same. Two things. Be open-minded, but do your homework, just like you would in Germany. The opportunities are there, and as much as they are fantastic, don't get either completely carried away and forget about due diligence. That can happen. At the same time, don't reject any potential business partners just because they were not on your first list. As Maik just mentioned, there may be companies, there may be hotel chains that you have never heard about, and that they are there. They could be your perfect business partners. And another point that I usually advise everyone, especially in the beginning, because it gets mowed under later in the process, there is a general misconception that contracts don't count for much in China. This is completely untrue. Write agreements down and let a lawyer look at and check your contracts before you sign them. This will be one of the best investments you make. And let it be a lawyer who has offices in China. Same goes for tax consultants. This may sound very basic, but I've seen a lot of people completely forgetting about it. There is rule of law also in China. And if you don't have your contracts and your agreements and your IP protection in place, then there is little you can do about it. In that way, it's not that different from Germany.
Thank you very much, Kerstin. So I think the three takeaways, CUP&CINO or any German company also listening now to us about the Chinese market is do your research just as in any other market, be open-minded towards the diverse possibilities in the market, and with all this opportunity in mind, still write down your agreements with your partners and be on a solid legal base also in written form in China. So actually very similar to the European market, one might think. But of course, the Chinese market has a lot of different cultural differences. And one question we got from the audience from Philip Conta is what kind of coffee is most commonly consumed? And I think I'm gladly handing that question over to Fabian, as he is closest to the heartbeat of the Chinese consumer in that sense. Fabian, what do you think is the normal type of coffee in China, and is it similar to Europe? Do Chinese people maybe prefer their coffee a little bit different? Do they not like the bitterness too much? What are your experiences?
It is definitely a little bit to quite a bit different to our coffee market. First of all, at least 5 years ago when I left Germany, we didn't have many cold coffee beverages. Of course, you can find in some specialty coffee shops some cold brew or something. But in China, it's very common to have an iced Americano, an iced latte, and so on. So basically a lot of cold coffee drinks. I think the best seller, at least here in southern China, is coffee with milk. So you have the cappuccino, you have the latte. So basically, have milk in the coffee to, I think it might also be part of the night cha, like the milk tea, what they have here a lot. So I think it's a little bit closer to that beverage maybe as well. Not much sugar in the coffee. And in general, I would say the coffee quality or the knowledge from the very normal coffee drinking consumer in China is actually way higher than we have it in Germany or Europe, because they didn't have this very long habit of drinking coffee every day. So the people now starting with coffee, many of them are actually really interested in it. So they spend some effort researching about it, and there are so many coffee competitions here, so many. There's a specific certification you can get as in the coffee industry. What is a Q-grader, for example? And I think there's probably like 100 times more Q-graders in China than we have in Germany, like a couple of thousand in China already. So the knowledge and the general the general expectation of the product is higher than in Germany.
Okay, that are definitely takeaways, I think, for Sven as well.
Yeah, I was just going to jump onto that one, Fabian. You mentioned the popularity of milk-based coffee drinks. How do you see because we see a huge trend now in Europe in terms of not plant-based milk alternatives. How is that? How is your perception of that in China?
Yeah, it's also coming. It's the whole vegan and plant-based development of in Europe is happening in China. It's not there yet, but I would say most of the better coffee shops definitely have a plant-based option as well. Oatly is very famous here. Like they did a very good market entry and always have the biggest exhibition booth if there's an exhibition related to this. So they're definitely very popular already. But there are also many other ones, many Australian ones, some Italian ones. A lot of plant-based options already.
Okay, so we heard already like a very high quality of coffee is demanded, and also milk solutions, also vegan milk solutions are in common in the Chinese market. There's one more question from the audience, from Alice, but I would like to put that at the end of the discussion because I think it would open a total new topic. But let's keep focused on the different coffee solutions in China. Milk-based and also in terms of the modularity and what the CUP&CINO machines can do, Sven. Now that we heard the demand in the market, how do you think maybe you want to also look back on the information that we just got, and how do you think your machine can potentially fit in? Because we already saw a little bit in the presentation how you have various different USPs with your machine in terms of your milk capability, but also in terms of the labor de-skilling, as you called it, as a push of the bottom of a machine. What do you think you can bring into the Chinese market, and how can your offering potentially be adapted to the Chinese market or fit in?
So I think I don't want to say we've been surprised by the development, but we certainly see that the capabilities of the machines to deal with non-dairy alternatives to milk, to deal with different types of drinks, such as I mentioned cold brew, I mentioned tea, I mentioned iced coffee. And to deal with two types of drinks simultaneously is certainly something that we've seen sparks a lot of interest, and a lot of innovation is coming out of that. So we have partners in other countries who come up with their own ideas of how they want to use our products and combine that. And so I'm thinking that the potential could be big, and you mentioned the de-skilling part as well. So basically, what we've learned in the past 25 years is that we want to put the experience of the customer, so the person who buys the drink first, and a lot of that we've integrated into the machinery, and I think that's part of the value proposition, to offer the barista served coffee from an untrained barista. to have this end-to-end control of the quality through the cloud and IoT. So to make sure that the quality is always consistent. Whenever you see a machine, you're sure that of the quality that will come out of it. It's a huge thing. So I'm thinking that there's a lot of opportunities.
Thank you very much, Fabian. Listening now to Sven about the de-skilling of, or about the potential coffee solutions with the CUP&CINO machines. How do you think it can fit into the Chinese coffee landscape? Do you think there are more modifications needed to the machines, or how do you see them in a typical Chinese cafe?
As I a little bit said it in the beginning, I think there's a very specific market where this machine is interesting for good coffee shops who have a good coffee consumption, and they have in general very well trained baristas, because there are so many educated coffee people already. I think there is a little bit less demand for it because they know their craftsmanship themselves, right? So to get a barista to use a more automated machine, I think can still work, but it's not the biggest value. I really see it more for the bigger chain companies who basically almost from the raw. Also, this specialty coffee shops, they have all their own ideas. You know, it's like the passion is only about the coffee, and they probably want to change the beans every 2 weeks and so on. I think it's going to be a very tough customer, actually. Like we experienced that for ourselves. So I think the better customer will be someone who sees the benefit of not having the extra training for the barista or for the people who will operate the machines, and also someone who focuses more on scaling, opening many shops, have the same quality in all their shops, like a copy and paste solution. I think that is definitely should be the focus customer.
Okay, so potentially someone with maybe 10 or plus 10, a little bit more than 10 cafes already in China, looking to expand, looking to implement a modular solution in China in all their cafes. And what do you think, Fabian, about the IoT capability that Sven also already presented? Is that something common in China for a cafe? Do you think that is something that might get adopted by Chinese cafes?
Again, it depends on what customer. If it's a big customer, there the transparency it will generate for the customer, like how easy it will be to track actually how much product you have output, cost controlling, all this kind of stuff. What matters more to bigger places. If you have a small coffee shop or owner who has 2 or 3 coffee shops, he can run the numbers by himself. Probably he will still be in one of his shops every day. You know, there I don't see the big value. But for bigger chains, again, yes, for sure. And also that you can quicker repair from the distance, or do some kind of analysis, what might be the problem, all this kind of stuff. For sure, it's useful for IoT.
Okay. Maik, what experience do you have? Yes, please.
Yeah, for the I also have the experience. There's actually also a lot of hotels who maybe are single hotels. They're not a chain, and they're actually they're buying this very fancy, very beautiful coffee machine, and then in order to use that machine, you have to hire someone to operate that machine. But actually, there is no return on investment, never, for that hotel to actually, you buy the expensive machine, and then you have to buy / an expensive labor to operate that machine. So I think they don't know better. So the first thing you go to a cool coffee shop on the street, you like the coffee, and they say, oh, somebody sells you the machine. I'm going to say, if you want a good coffee, you have to buy that machine. If not, it's not going to work. So I saw a lot of hotels who have these pretty machines, even 5-star hotels in Shenzhen, and I don't want to mention any names. They have pretty machines, and but when you drink the coffee, the quality is not what you would expect compared to the room rate and to the rates in general. So no one goes to a hotel and has a coffee. So I think maybe CUP&CINO can change that. So I think
Interesting. And what would be your impression of your customers would they be open, especially maybe the large chains, to a IoT solution that is also able to track their coffee and track in the end also their payment that they for them?
Yeah, I think absolutely, because the also the research and development, like same as with us, we are not just providing some finished food products. We also develop the menus with them, and then going through the costing with them, even tell them for how much they sell it, and it becomes basically a financial model. It's not anymore just a product. So you model everything out and scale it in the way that it becomes just a little piece of investment in your store. And in order to make that happen, you need that numbers and that data to support that. If I would just give them that numbers, but you have a manual machine, that would be just numbers. Nobody can get back to it. So I think absolutely, even like big hotel chains like Marriott, they're all looking for centralized purchasing, centralized menu writing. They're going to be less and less chefs who are going to operate their kitchen in terms of creativity and menu development. It's going to be all done somewhere. Maybe a little bit like McDonald's, who develop their menus somewhere in the States for the whole world and just send it out. And I think that's the direction everyone is going here as well. And I think main reason is there's just not enough people who want to do their jobs in the first place. So I don't think so. It's only a money matter. I think there's just not enough labor.
Thank you, Maik. Kerstin, you're raising your hand. Do you have experience with, maybe also already introducing IoT solutions in China? What are your views?
I don't have experience with introducing IoT solutions myself, but I see tremendous advantages for offering the type of fast and uncomplicated service that the typical Chinese customer expects. I think that could be really one of the advantages of the CUP&CINO model. That's just what I would like to sell, because we all know Chinese customers are very, very demanding, especially when it comes to service or after-sales service. And with the current 5-year plan, especially going in the direction of developing online services and online solutions, even more than it already is in China, I think that is also a very good selling point.
Okay, so your impression is that the business culture in China towards a easy to understand, easy to use business model and a payment model would suit the CUP&CINO offerings with IoT solutions?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that is also something as a takeaway for you, Sven. In terms of the business model, Sven, I think you already showed also, or you mentioned it during your presentation, that CUP&CINO is international markets also able to offer the machine as a, how did you formulate? Maybe you can help me a little bit with it, that you give the machines to the cafes and then they pay per brew or pay per cup, as you mentioned.
Yes,
can you
exactly.
Elaborate a little bit?
Correct. Yeah, so this is basically at the core of the concept, and again, I can share the feedback we're receiving from roasters in Europe, who very much are excited by the idea, because this gives them end-to-end control, making sure that what comes out of the machine is being paid. This is actually, in terms of the business model, something that has received great acclaim, and we call it either pay per click or pay per cup or pay per portion. And we're basically asking ourselves, is this something that would receive a similar kind of positive feedback in the Chinese market? Because of course it involves what is good for somebody like Fabian, a roaster. He has the end-to-end control of the value chain, of the quality, of the consistency, and also for a chain owner. But this control, of course, means that the data is there to be used. And so we are basically asking ourselves, could there be any reservations adopting such a model? As I said, in Europe, we've received excellent feedback. It works very well for us in Germany, and so this is something that we we'd like to put to the round of experts.
Okay, because I think one potential aspect I might think of, Fabian, maybe you can also share your opinion on this. The Chinese cafe chain or owner, like a cafe owner, would not own the machine at the moment, right? He would kind of rent it per usage. Do you think that might be something that a Chinese business owner is not confirmed with?
Yeah, it's definitely something what needs to be tested. From our experience, of course, if it's a good deal, Chinese people also like it, right? It depends of, they will definitely calculate it. They will see, okay, what does it cost me to buy a machine? And they will probably compare to a cheaper machine, because in the end of the day, they will see, okay, is an espresso machine, and if I have a barista and my normal espresso machine, how much does it cost me, etc. But again, I think you just need to focus on the right customer, and then it doesn't matter, because the normal coffee lover, coffee shop owner, I don't see this as a target customer, because he will actually probably invest in the machine and do all this calculation. But it's a completely different way of thinking than someone who will open or has already a chain operation, right? So I think
so again, a little bit more focus on the
right, needs to be tested. And we also rent out machines to people here, so they don't need to own everything, right? And then they buy beans in a package and so on. Yeah, but of course,
and in terms of adding on to that, and in terms of sharing, openness to sharing the data or making the data available, do you see any reservations in that regard?
So basically, do you mean that the data, they can look at the data, but you also know the data?
Yes, exactly.
No, I don't think that's an issue at all in China right now, because it doesn't matter whatever you want to do with your phone, you have to give all the data anyway. So there's no option to live in China without doing this. So I don't think there's a big resentment about this.
I think Kerstin is also shaking her head in terms of the data resentment on the Chinese side. We also have one notice from Maik towards, I think, the business model with the ownership of the machines. Maik, you raised your hand?
Actually, Fabian already mentioned. I think
okay.
I'm completely on board with that, because I think the first, especially when you attack a market where people are not knowledgeable about coffee, what is the market, what I think is there, then obviously they're gonna. I mean, there's a lot of coffee machines where you press a button and coffee comes out. So now the person who is not knowledgeable about coffee, you have to convince them that's the better coffee than the machine what costs half the price. So that might be, possibly, I guess that's Fabian's job then to do that. And it's obviously visible that people see that. But I think Fabian already mentioned it. I think that might be the only thing what people will do. Say like, okay, that's cost 50,000 RMB. I can buy one for 20,000 and I just press a button and it's more simple, etc. I think here only the quality of show them the difference of both beverages and put it into their mouth can solve that problem, I guess.
Okay, so I think CUP&CINO. Thank you, Maik. So I think CUP&CINO has given the opportunities in the market, but also a little bit of challenges to test its business model, to test its machines in China. Kerstin, can you maybe share some of your experience with German small and medium-sized companies in China when they adapt their business model and when they test out their business model, maybe also try out their products in China? Can you maybe share some success stories, what worked in the past?
Well, there are quite a few success stories. I don't think I will go into them because I'm afraid that will take up too much time, and it is maybe more valuable to just give a general idea. First of all, China is many markets. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting in Qingdao, Fabian is in Shenzhen, Maik is too. So my first advice would be, since we're talking about F&B, would be try it out on Chinese test persons from different places and different backgrounds. You may well have some who like it already, and then they could be the first group of customers, but don't write off the others who have the first sip of coffee and go, ooh, so many things are just acquired tastes. Yeah, when I first came to China in the mid-90s, most Chinese, really most, would mix Sprite in with wine, both red and white. in order to make it sweeter. And nowadays you have so many Chinese wine connoisseurs who would not be called dead, even thinking about putting Sprite on the same table than wine. So, you know, you can work your way up slowly to adding more groups of consumers. Obviously, you want to start with the ones who already say, oh, great coffee, please. Yeah, but remember that this is a big place. We all know it, and it always sounds trite to say it. I had a professor who advised us against it, saying, I don't want to hear China as a big place. The problem is people think they know it, but we forget what that actually means for business. It means you have a lot of different places where people may have very different preferences to where they drink coffee, how often they drink it. Like Yunnan is a traditional coffee culture. They have very nice coffee beans in Yunnan. So that's really something that that one should not forget. Once you start with maybe a part of the market first, but you may slowly conquer the rest of it. It's possible.
So I think regional specialities and regional different consumer preferences and business habits is definitely something that Sven will note down from this webinar and also take care of in China. You mentioned also, I think, something that most wine lovers will probably have a little bit issues hearing about, and now also from the audience when Chinese mix their Sprite with wine. Fabian, do you have any similar experiences with coffee? Maybe a little bit off topic now, but where there are very experimental or very experiment-friendly Chinese consumers in your cafes, and they maybe demand some very strange coffee variations? Do you get that often?
I think since coffee is quite new, I mean, for most people in Germany who just used to, let's say, drink normal coffee every day, like coffee with milk or normal filter coffee, normal Americano, the specialty coffee scene by itself is already special for them, right? Like a very highly fermented, anaerobic, whatever, natural coffee bean, what tastes almost like tea or something, yes? I think this is more adapted in the Chinese, or I would say Asia market. The Chinese are heavily influenced by Korea and Japan from this perspective, and also more the US and Europe, because they're a little bit further ahead with this type of, specialty coffee, this newer development in coffee industry, let's say. But mixing coffee with special things, besides that, not really, I would say. Nothing what you don't do in the rest of the world to coffee already.
Okay. There is one question from Steffi, which is, thank you very much, Steffi. Maybe you also want to say it in voice, or I can read it out.
You can read it, it's fine.
All right. No, I thought now that you already tuned in, you might say it yourself.
No, my question is whether the machines can also be used in offices, because I've worked for companies where we had very good coffee machines actually, and even like on a global basis. So the headquarter decided which coffee machines are used, and so I would like to know
Steffi, yes. Steffi, can you give a little bit of your background? Are you in China right now?
Yes, I'm in China. Sorry, yes, I'm in China. Yes.
Okay,
and I'm not a heavy coffee drinker, but I experience and trying out a lot. And so my question is whether this can also be used in the companies.
So I think it's a very good question. In our offices we do use the machines, and everybody gets the coffee from the machine. But the idea is really to offer a barista served coffee, right? So the solution and the concept is about a serve over solution. So it is possible, but the whole way the machine is designed is to have the experience of somebody making the coffee for another person. So what we have seen is people setting up something like a barista bar in an office, right? Yeah, so if you have like an office tower at the maybe high-end law firms or whatever, and at the bottom you could have a barista bar with a machine. So that would be something that could be interesting. Yeah.
Or at least like a pop-up, or exactly. We have done it like for a couple of weeks, just advertise. So this is good. Yes, highly appreciated. Good.
Thank you for your question, Steffi. I think Kerstin is raising her hand. Maik, you are still raising your hand. Is that from the first question, or do you also? Okay, then Kerstin, please.
I think definitely looking into companies, because that also came into my mind earlier. It's always worth it. One of the first things that my ex-husband did when he entered his very first job here in China was that he taught the cleaning lady, who was also doing the dishes and everything, that coffee beans are different from tea in that you cannot reuse them. Like tea leaves here in China, you put water once, you put it twice.
That's a good coffee story.
She was not intentionally making the coffee weaker, but she was just being friendly and trying to save money for the company. And I remember that his colleagues really, really appreciated that he taught her that coffee was a kind of expensive Western stuff that was not quite as good as tea, and that you had to only use it once. So just from that, you know, it's always worth a try. There are certainly enough big companies here, you know, Baidu, Alibaba, who knows?
I think that's a very interesting potential business field for CUP&CINO that we didn't spoke a lot about yet. And I think in Europe, Sven, you're already offering your machines to a variety of different business partners and end users. I think I saw on your website, including from petrol stations over gyms also. So a wide variety of the hospitality sector. And Maik, maybe we can fit that question into, are there any other sectors apart from hotels that are looking for high-end Western food experiences? And maybe we can combine that a little bit with the coffee experience. Like next to the hotel sector.
Yeah, I think apart from the hotel sector, I think the catering sector in general, even like if you go into schools, universities, I think catering in general, even factories, they are not just blue collar workers, but even in blue collar workers factories, you actually have people who are asking us if we can have some burgers or hot dogs. So even them, they're trying to provide them something what is different than just rice and with some vegetables. So I think the whole factory sector in China is also very interesting to go for. Schools, there are huge schools where are like a hungry teacher alone, who are all mostly coffee drinkers. What else? I think, like you say, like the petrol stations, I think is very interesting sector. And then just going into sectors who do not have any food background, but maybe have the capacity because they have the space, but have the how to say, have the people, have a lot of people in the building.
The customer contact.
Yeah, so they're in the right spot, and I think like, oh my God, if I would sell coffee here, that would work pretty well. And a lot of people like trying to use that opportunity. There might be even a ghost shop, you know, like, I don't know, Uniqlo or something. You approach Uniqlo and you give them a concept and say, okay, listen, you have 1,000 stores selling clothes. Why not clear a little corner there and put a guy in who makes fresh coffee and maybe even serve some food? So there's more and more of this hybrid concept popping up. And yeah, like maybe a closed store would be something. So I don't know how much a square meter return on investment is for selling clothes. That coffee might be a good option to fit into that kind of stores because they're mostly huge. So that's what I can think of, but I'm sure there's hung with more.
Yeah, I think you're giving very valuable points in terms like how eager the Chinese businesses are to differentiate themselves to the consumers, and how important it is to integrate like new food and beverage models into the offerings in order to compete in the market. So I think those are all potential future strong markets for coffee solutions with strong coffee offerings. I want to go back to one question that Alex has asked a little bit earlier about the ready-to-drink canned or bottled coffee, and that is of course a little bit maybe off the barista type coffee. Is more a form of consumption, maybe casually on the go. Fabian, where do you see the consumer stand between the what does he want to have from a canned coffee, and why does he not opt for a canned coffee but go to a barista style coffee in China? What are the consumer needs for the real barista style coffee?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to say since I don't have the statistics in detail, right?
Yeah, maybe from your experience.
But from the feeling, like for sure, there is a lot of ready-to-drink beverages in every 7-Eleven and every corner store type of supermarket here. You have Starbucks, and basically all of this, they have their products in all of the shelves. We have Nescafe, like I think long time already. Like they were everywhere when I came already 5 years ago with their ready-to-drink, mostly milk coffee mixes, right? Like in different types. It's big, but again, I don't know the exact number. But it's also completely different, right? It's like that is more an alternative to some other canned drink, maybe energy drinks or Coca-Cola, or even all the tea brands you have in this kind of fridge space, right? So I don't think it's a real coffee bean or normal coffee business competitor. It's like a little bit outside of that.
Can you dive a little bit, because you also know the coffee market in Europe so well with your own roastery, in the consumer mentality about for which reason do Chinese consumers actually go to the coffee? Is it the pure coffee experience? Is it a socializing aspect? What do you think is more important in China?
Yeah, historically it was. They only had instant coffee here, like long time before I came. Just Nescafe, just instant everywhere. Basically, that's what Chinese people thought is called 3-in-1, like sugar, milk, and coffee in one product, and then you mix it in hot water. And then Starbucks introduced coffee beans here, basically. Like they opened so many stores, and how it is told, like they invested a lot of time, a lot of money over many years actually to build this kind of habit for Chinese people, and it basically was a place to show off, kind of. It was cool to walk around with a Starbucks cup, etc. So in this way, Starbucks did a lot for the coffee industry in general in terms of introducing coffee beans to China, right? Nowadays, it's different reasons. I know so many people who come to our stores every day and just have their coffee in the morning. Like they have been outside of China, or even in China, they built this habit in the office. I mean, Shenzhen is heavy for the software development industry. We are very close to the Tencent building here. And they are basically in 2 minutes walking, we have maybe 20 coffee shops. It's crazy. Like there's so much demand for the white collar office workers who drink coffee like we do, right? And then you have the people in more cool, more hip areas where people go to spend an afternoon. Just sit there, bring their notebooks, bring a book, take a lot of pictures. It's also very common in China that people go to Western looking style places, or like things like coffee shops to take 2-hour selfie sessions and drink one coffee. So it's hard to say there's one particular customer. There's like a mix. Coffee lovers, people who drink coffee like we do for the effect, plus we like it, and the ones who just go to stores to have a place to be, right? Instead of whatever other place they can go.
Okay, so Fabian, you mentioned also that the trend for coffee consumption is changing very rapidly from only instant over the introduction of Starbucks to a broader adoption, and now to really specialty coffee cafes where people go to take pictures and also consume the coffee. And Angela Chen Angela, I also saw you already in the video. Do you want to because your question is very tightly related to that, do you prefer to put it forward yourself if you like to?
Thank you, Adrian. Hello, everybody. So my question is about localization. So this could be a general question, not typically only for coffee and food and beverage business. So because China market is such a different market compared to the Western, especially in Europe. And I say this as a compliment. You can have a product in Europe and this product can be popular for 100 years and still popular, but in China it's usually really changing so rapidly. So so how do you really do this to catch the trend, to be ahead of everybody before it's too late?
Thank you, Angela. Can you maybe give us a little bit of your background? Are you sitting in Europe right now or in China?
I'm in China. I work for a German company called, which you can see from my background,
Yes.
Gustav Wolf. Yes, we produce elevator ropes, which you use everybody. It's the one very essential thing that carries you up and down every day.
Yes, of course. And thank you for your question. And I think, Kerstin, as you have a lot of experience with new trends also in the Chinese market, do you want to put answer forward?
I can certainly try, even though of course as an office building, we don't have to be quite as much as the forefront of innovation as maybe you have to do when you are an entrepreneur in the F&B field. But that was one of the things that I was thinking about in the beginning when Sven was mentioning that they are considering to add the cream cheese tops and the milk tops and everything. And I was just thinking they will have to keep doing that because there are a lot of new trends that come up quickly. And if you can catch them, that is usually a huge added value for your customers who used your machines. However, since everybody works with coffee machines and with more or less, I don't mean to put yours down, but with more or less the same technology, that means it should also not be impossible to incorporate new trends. Yeah, it shouldn't mean that you have to reinvent the coffee machine every 5 months. In general, the real trick to that is simply to have enough people out in the market to look around and to tell you when something new is coming up, because the Chinese competitors, they will be fast, that's for sure.
Thank you, Kerstin. Maybe I can also share a little bit from the experience that we made with the automated market research, as it maybe fits in quite well with your question. One way, of course, is the field research, the sampling of products in the Chinese market, having questionnaires, observations in the market, very like the classic market research strategies. And then there are some new market research strategies that can also be applied in the Chinese market, which include automated text analysis, where you look for specific search words in online conversations. So, for example, you can have China Weibo, which is a little bit like the Chinese Twitter, and the text posts, and you say, I want all the posts from a certain time frame that include a certain keyword, for example, coffee, and then you can see which other words are closely related to coffee. For example, it could be an Americano or a milk combination with coffee, and this way new trends often can be observed quite well. This needs a little bit of technical preparation as you prepare the keywords that you're looking for. But for example, what Sven already mentioned, that the cheese topping is a potential option for the CUP&CINO machines to combine with the coffee. I think that could be a trend that you can find if it is already happening in China. Then you can find it through text analysis and social media posts, e-commerce platforms, and then other forms of digital publications. Fabian, you're raising a hand, and we are also getting into a very last end of the webinar. So I hope yes, we can find a good closing also.
Okay, yeah, just my quick thing to this. I think the trends there are so many trends what pop up. I know them, of course, especially for the coffee industry. So you have every worldwide trend gets quickly adapted in China. If it's, for example, selling frozen cold brew coffee online. So basically you get a frozen cold brew delivered in a liquid, like frozen liquid, but it's basically then like in good instant coffee, you can say. You just heat it up, add some hot water to it, and then you have this kind of coffee. I think for CUP&CINO, though, since it is it's B2B based, and the fundamentals of the coffee machine didn't change in forever. It's basically an upgrade of how to make coffee beans into a cup. And then if you add different products demanding to the market, if they have a new, now it's this cheese top, it's also not so new anymore, it's also a couple of years already, but if this kind of trend's happening, it's basically not even our or Cappuccino's, I think, task to try to innovate the market in this way, because there we have no chance in China. Like there are so many ideas and so many people try this every day, right? So it's basically enabling our B2B customers to have a better product for their B2C customers. So I think in this way, we don't have to follow every trend, at least for us in the coffee industry. It's a little bit less relevant, I feel.
Thank you, Fabian. Very unique point. Thank you, Kerstin, and thank you, Adrian. So can I take 1 more minute? Have another question.
Well, the time I think we wanted to end towards 10:30. So Neville is, I think, also eager to come up with a closing statement. Maybe it's possible to send us the question after the event by email. I think Neville will also, sorry, Angela. I think Neville will also mention how we can share the recorded material from today's webinar. So I would give over to a closing statement due to time. Sorry,
Yeah.
over
No
to
problem.
for a closing statement to Neville.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Neville? I think
yes, I'm here. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I thought
Thanks for that. Yeah. So just a quick thanks for that very vivid discussion. It was very informative. I really enjoyed it. And I've put up now these QR codes of the panel, so you can get in touch with them. There will be a recording of this event on YouTube. I'd also like to introduce another informative China team venture, the China Hot Pod podcast hosted by Xiaolong Hu, who you can see on the right-hand side, where he discusses topics in depth with experts in Germany and China, providing tailor-made solutions. It's a German podcast, so I won't understand it because my German is very, very poor. I'm Neville J. McKenzie, and you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can drop a line on China Team. And just a quick note on our next webinar. The next webinar is scheduled for the 19th of August and is titled Successful People Development in Sino-German Organizations. So you can follow us on China Team on LinkedIn to get updates. And remember to tell your friends and colleagues that you've found the discussion here very interesting. So that's the end of the webinar. Sorry to have to end it so abruptly, but it was a very interesting topic, and we hope to bring you more. Thanks.
Thank you. And Neville, one question: where can we find the link to the YouTube recording?
I'll post that on LinkedIn. Yeah, that would be posted on LinkedIn. Yeah, and I'll try and do it as soon as possible. Yeah. But we have the details of the members, so we should be able to send a direct email with the details of the YouTube recording.
Then thank you also very much for participation. Of course, for the panel experts from my side, thank you very much for your input. I hope I'm sure there were a lot of takeaways also for CUP&CINO in terms of the Chinese market, and wish all the best success to CUP&CINO in the Chinese market. And thank you for all participants. And yeah, it was great to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.